We haven't necessarily seen such measures coming from European EMs, LATAM central banks. So why do Asian central banks need to resort to these tools?
Hi, thanks, Sherry. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is wide rate differentials between Asian and US central banks. For example, in the policy rates in emerging Asia are averaging about 5% or less, whereas in Latin America it's actually 11% or higher, and EMEA is at least 8%. I think this is despite the fact that in EMEA and LATAM, the central banks have already begun to start to cut rates. So I think for Asian currencies, when it was under pressure, policymakers in the region were trying to look for ways to increase yields to lure in foreign inflows, while at the same time keeping policy rates unchanged. As a result, what they're doing is for example, in India and China, they are planning to sell bonds, which of course will increase local yields with the stated aim of luring inflows. While in Indonesia, they've actually even introduced new rupiah bills to lure in foreign inflows.
Marcus, have these unconventional tools been successful at all in propping up currencies? What do we see as the limitations here?
Well, I think there have been varying degrees of success with these tools, and all of them are, in a sense, they have a double-edged sword. For example, of course, in China, in September, what we saw is the PBOC engineer a less supply of offshore yuan. As a result of that, highball rates surge. With of course the stated aim of course is to deter short speculators in the Chinese yuan. I think they were somewhat successful. I think they slowed the depreciation in the yuan somewhat. But of course, what we heard also is for portfolio managers who were long Chinese bonds, what happened is they wanted to actually hedge their yuan exposure. But with hedging costs becoming so expensive, what they did was actually pare down their long holdings of Chinese bonds instead. You could say accentuating the sell-off instead. For Indonesia, with the rupiah bills that they introduced in September, demand has not been terrific, and I think what markets investors are saying out there is that probably demand will probably pick up once US rates stabilize. At the same time, the limitation of rupiah bills would be that introduce volatility to the rupiah.